Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Unhealthy Podcast, where I continue my very public attempt to get healthier without pretending that I've suddenly become a wellness influencer. So today's episode, folks, I am going to now follow up the announcement that I made earlier, a couple of months ago, that I purchased a RingConn smart ring. Now, before the Oura crowd starts sharpening pitchforks, let me say this up front. Oura, of course, is the better-known brand and probably has the stronger clinical validation story. Those things I know. I have looked at the research, and I am actually putting together something that I will do in an upcoming episode about Oura versus RingConn. But when it came down to me actually spending my money, RingConn made a very practical argument for me. So I'll just state these up front. No subscription, strong battery life, sleep tracking, heart rate data, oxygen trends, and some interesting sleep apnea related features. So this episode today is not going to be RingConn is better than Oura. This is going to be why did Marv choose RingConn and what I'm hoping to learn from it. So at the end of the day, listen, I live in the tech world, so I already get tons of alerts and data and stuff that I look at all day long. So what I do not need at the end of the day is another device yelling at me, telling me I'm unhealthy. I know it. What I need is something that is quiet, comfortable, useful enough to help me notice patterns, uh, how am I sleeping? What happens to my heart rate after a bad night? Am I recovering, just surviving? And can this little ring give me enough insight to make better choices without turning me into a full-time data nerd? So first thing I want to do is have a quick discussion about smart rings in general, what they can actually do, what they should not claim to do, and why RingConn got my money. So, of course, uh, we start with the idea that smart rings are, the next step after the fitness watches. They're smaller, less distracting, easier to sleep with, all of that stuff. And let's face it, all of these fit devices are very popular. I was a little hesitant. I'm like, you know what? If I want to know how I'm doing, I'm just going to go to the doctor. But as we have learned over the years that there are things that we probably don't know that's going on in our bodies that, if we would just pay attention more or go get checked before something goes wrong, lives would be saved. So smart rings are basically the next step. And instead of giving notifications all day, a smart ring will quietly collect data, especially things like, sleep, heart rate, oxygen trends, temperature, movement, stuff like that. And the pitch is simple. You wear it, you sleep with it, and every now and then you look at the app to learn what your body is doing when you're not paying attention to it. So the question for this episode, I said, again, it's not, is Aura good? Aura is good. And it actually has the stronger peer-reviewed validation record. But the question for me is, if I were going to buy a smart ring, why might I choose the RingConn instead? So that's where we are. Other things to note about the smart ring, basically it is a wearable health tracker built into a ring instead of a watch. I already mentioned that it tracks things like sleep, heart rate, etc. But a smart ring is best when used as a trend tracker, not as a diagnostic tool. I think that was one of the things that kind of held me back for a lot of reasons is because, how accurate can these things do? So smart rings are attractive. They're passive tracking. So you don't have to, open an app and tell it what you're doing. You don't have to tell it to start a workout. The Ring just basically collects data in the background. Um, Sleep comfort, I've mentioned, it's easier to sleep with than a watch. I myself don't wear watches. And if I were to be even more honest, I normally don't wear rings. I have been known to lose a ring or two, but that is for another episode. There is less screen distraction. So basically, a ring will give you health data without becoming another notification device. Although I will say the RingConn app actually will do notifications if you allow it. If you have, sat for too long, it may tell you, hey, you might want to move. Did that to me on a recent plane flight. I had a 3 hour, 40-minute flight to and from Minnesota, and both times it told me that, I should move, but I can't. I'm on a plane. Rings, smart rings are attractive also because they actually have a longer battery life than most of the watches out there. They are built to wear, basically a week or so at a time. And again, they have apps that you can put on your phone and it tracks all that data. So, why did I purchase RingConn over Aura? I'll just give you that. I mentioned earlier, no ongoing subscription. That was one of the things that I did look at. So Aura has a subscription. I think it starts as low as $5.99 per month or $69 per year. I didn't want another subscription. I didn't want to be, sucked into something and be stuck with it, especially if I wasn't going to use it, because to be honest, I wasn't sure how long I would use this. I bought this back in February. I intentionally waited these 3 months before I talked about it because I wanted to make sure, one, am I even going to wear the ring? And two, is it going to be beneficial for me? So I wanted something without a subscription. Uh, Second was the lower long-term cost. Um, the RingConn actually is cheaper than the Oura Ring, so that was something that caught my attention. The one that I purchased was the Generation 2. It's listed at $299, and I think that's what I paid for it on Amazon. If you want to consider that, I will, put a link to the uh, Amazon page in the show notes. I know that there is another version that is $199 on the product page, but I just chose this one. I think the other one was too new, and I wasn't sure that I wanted to get something that was, brand spanking new. So the total cost of ownership was just lower. It's just a one-time cost. I don't have to worry about it adding up with the subscription year over year. The battery life. The Oura Ring listed battery life at 5 to 8 days. The RingConn, it advertises 10 to 12 days, but I'll be honest, it's probably very good at 8 days. I could probably get longer, but I know that I've gone at least a week and still had, I don't know, 10, 15% left on the battery before I plugged it in. Comes with a nice little case, looks like a ring case. So it's a USB-C connector, and it just keeps on working. The other thing is, and this is something I didn't think about when I purchased it, I already had on my phone a sleep cycle app, which I actually use more for the alarm clock. It had a nice, soothing wake up alarm on it, but it did track things during my sleep that I paid attention to. So I already knew that I had some sleep stuff that I wanted to pay attention to. In the Oura Ring and the RingConn both had items that would give more information about that. So on the sleep app that I had on the phone, I had to, again, pay a subscription to unlock all the features, but it would give me an idea of what my sleep quality was, how long I slept, track things like snoring and all of that. Now, what I have found with the RingConn so far is that it actually will analyze the sleep pattern, and it's positioned around sleep apnea monitoring, including things, and I'm going to get into these on a later episode, they call AHI, oxygen desaturation, SpO2, heart rate pattern, blah, blah, blah. But it's all based on sleep apnea curiosity. And I learned from a recent guest that sleep apnea is one of the most underdiagnosed things in our country. So obviously, now that I know that, that is something to pay more attention to. And the bottom line is this really comes down to the RingConn was good enough for me and good enough for what you say. Well, most of us aren't buying a smart ring to publish a clinical study or anything like that. We want to know things like, how many steps do I take during the day? Do I sleep poorly? Uh, do I have stress? That was another thing that's in there. So for that kind of personal behavior feedback, RingConn, in my estimation at the time, was that probably RingConn will be just as good as Aura based on my level. Now, down the road, if I start to get super, super serious, we'll take another look at it. But to be honest, this was just a starting point, baby steps, and the RingConn was the better choice for me at the time. So, what I would not claim, and nobody ever should, is that I'm not claiming that RingConn is more clinically validated than Aura. I am not claiming that RingConn can diagnose sleep apnea. Uh, RingConns will not replace your doctor. Um, do not treat anything in there with readiness, stress, or recovery as medical conclusions. These are just trend tractors. So, uh, the only thing I would say is if something pops up that is a trend that says, hey, you might want to think about this, then get to your doctor and check it out. So that's where we are. So I just wanted to give that as an intro into the RingCom, the fact that I purchased. So obviously, if you were to create yourself a checklist before you to before you were to buy one of these, um, the checklist would be, do you want something with a strong clinical validation record? Do you want a subscription? Do you care about battery life? Are you possibly worried about sleep apnea? Are you mainly looking for trends and behavior change? And then also probably need to look at, are you somebody that obsesses over numbers? I mean, are you going to dig into the apps and try to really understand all of them? So that would be the type of checklist that I would say to consider when making your purchase. So for me, RingConn is not the choice because it beats Aura in the clinical validation. RingConn is the choice because it may be better practical for me. As I mentioned, no subscription, strong battery life, lower long-term cost, and enough health trend data to help me make better decisions. So that's it, folks. That's going to do it for this episode. In an upcoming episode, I'm going to try to get it to be the next episode. I am going to look head to head. I pulled together some studies and some research, and I'm going to look at all of that. It will include the features, the pricing, the subscription question. If you've used Aura, RingConn, or any other smart ring, hey, why don't you reach out to me? Because I'd like to hear from you. Like I said, I'm going to look at studies, but I would, of course, love to hear from people that are using these things on a daily basis. I want to find out what is working, what is not working, what's annoying you, if at all, and if it actually did change your habits or did it just give you something new to worry about it. So send me your thoughts, leave a comment, reach out wherever you follow the show, and make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss the episode. That's it. And until then, live healthy and be happy.